down the cost of running government, then you will not be compelled to impose or to start searching for taxes from wherever to boost revenue.
But Honorable, do you agree that our tax performance is very low? If you look at where we stand, even on the sub-region, somewhere 14% to GDP, which is very low. So our peers are doing 20%, and this must be improved.
No, I don't agree that we are the weakest in tax revenue.
But you
to
agree
GDP.
that it needs to be improved?
It can be improved. But places like Ivory Coast, Togo, and we are better than them. We are doing better. I don't have the figures here to give you now, but we are doing better tax to GDP.
No, really.
We are doing better.
We are doing better. Cote d'Ivoire is doing better.
We are doing better than some of the neighboring countries.
Cote d'Ivoire is doing better than us.
We are doing better than some of the neighboring countries. But you see, what is necessary is that everybody in Ghana knows that he has to contribute towards the running of the nation. That is why people are ready to pay taxes. If you tell me that people are not paying taxes, I normally very vehemently disagree. You have to differentiate between direct tax and indirect tax. Even your baby in the house is paying indirect tax. When you consume Cerelac, there is indirect tax on it, and you have to pay. You have to pay before you buy it. So when we are talking about direct taxes, let's classify this: pay as you earn. If we have not brought in so many people.
No, if you move away from the argument of whether who is paying tax or not and look at the tax performance in general, are you satisfied if the NDC was in government today? Will you be happy with the current performance of our tax vis-a-vis the need for revenue to run the economy?
I have said earlier that we need to do better, but the method of doing better is what is worrying us now. There was a time somebody said we are going to move from taxation to production. 5 years now, what's the result of that? They are rather imposing more and more taxes. In fact, since this government came, they have imposed 19 different taxes. From the banks paying special levy, the petroleum taxes, increasing those that were to be stopped. They had renewed them. If you add them up, before this new E-levy one, there are about 19 taxes. You see? So they are not living up to the words they told us, that we will stop this tax, we will stop nuisance taxes.
No,
but when they came,
it's not possible for any government in the world to say that I'm not going to tax. Wait, sir.
Fine.
He said that we are going to move the revenue, make sure that taxation goes into areas, productive ventures, not necessarily not taxing, because he cannot do without tax, sir.
Then you didn't listen to him very well.
He didn't say that.
What he said was that
productive centers,
we were using a very lazy way of raising revenue. We were using very lazy means of raising revenue, just taxing. That's why he said. So we are going to move from taxation to production. Now, we have not seen the production. We are rather seeing more and more taxes. For instance, when Prof was talking, the other person who was talking from
Joseph Guta.
He said that we are using these e-platforms to pay our taxes. Now, if you introduce tax on it, it means that we are going to pay tax on the taxes that we are going to pay to the government.
Okay,
That's why we will wait. When the bill comes, okay, we will see what will happen to these other things.
But even before
that is why I say that this government has lived on deception before and after the assumption.
Okay, I have a question on the E-levy, but just wrap up your points earlier.
Yes, I think it is important we place issues in their right context. If we have to do politics, then NDC even doesn't have to even be listened to. It is politics. That's why I was trying not to do politics. But even with the situation of the COVID for about 19 months, government was paying workers without even they working. Check all the performance parameters in our economy and compare to 7 January that we took over 2016. Check all of them. If they want us to see which of the two, no, I'm coming. Let me. I beg you. It's very important because they cannot do anything about it. They think they want to take advantage of the situation, Ghana and the war we are in today, and lie to Ghanaians. Look, take away all these things. Under NDC, before we took over, interest rate was almost 40%. The banks are there. Go and find out the figures. Even government interest with the government, they themselves, policy rate was higher than today's lending rate. We don't go into these facts and figures. We want to address the situation in which we are. I am saying that even without the COVID, effective tax rate in Ghana has been a problem. Only 15% of those who are supposed to pay tax, about 13 million, only about 2 million pay. So we have issues.
Which type of tax? Which type?
Income tax, we have those who pay. Please, let me finish. When you're talking, I kept quiet. What we are saying is that now they are saying cut expenditures. These are wishy-washy talks. They are arbitrary statement by the NDC. Why? Cutting taxes this time is important. But before you come and make such statement, you would have done your work and said that we cut A, B, C, D, we'll get $1 billion. This is our obligation. You can fix the deficit. That's how you do things.
I've heard them talk about speeding up the passage of the exemption bill, which will save the country some money. Isn't that a suggestion?
But so is that which work have they done on the exemption bill? How much is it going to save us?
Oh, before you came, the exemption. I want you to. This exemption bill was given to Dr. Asibe.
You are getting me
off my track. He never worked on it.
I'll give you the time to respond. So allow him.
What I'm saying is that, as you are saying, the exemption bill, if we passed and we do everything we want to do, now can we ourselves tell Ghanaians how much are we saving against the obligation there? I'm just saying that we should stop making arbitrary statements and back our statements. For instance, like the Guta and the AGI issue. It's just all about interest. And this interest, MPP interest. Talking about Office of Government Machinery. Don't let us deceive the public as if it's about Jubilee House. He knows we have so many different institutions under different, especially the productive centers. What we are saying is that there's a challenge today. Our debt levels are going up. We are not getting enough revenue because of the productivity which has been impaired because of global issues. Now ships bringing things to Ghana, things they charge 2 million, 4 million, they are charging over 12 million, over 200%. This one is not very good for Mahama. These are challenges. How best can we handle this and save Ghanaians and save this country going forward? And now we are doing politics. And you are saying that we introduced 19 taxes. I dare him, not now because maybe he doesn't have it here. I don't do my project. To go and get all the figures. In any case, Akufo-Addo reduce or extract entirely 15 tax components. Even if what you are saying is true. Today I was this is my test station. Some are quoting 19, their own people, one MP. I don't want to mention you because it's not here. Now you are quoting 19. Everything about this is always planned propaganda information put in the public domain.
No, in terms of the
what we are saying is that even with this situation that we are talking about, actuals, budgets are projections, they are programs. They are talking as if we never actualize anything. How can you, how dare you, that even Accra here, you don't see how the roads are being overlaid, using asphalt and doing even other road spoiled. You don't see the infrastructural work. You don't see the social interventions that we are doing, free SHS. You don't see even to Swansea. I'm not saying we don't have road problems. Some part, but under Akufo-Addo that we've seen asphalt road as never before in Shire. So send your team to go around and see the work going on there. What we are saying is that there's hardship. How best can we go for it? But if you want to talk, then I will say that you as a social democratic party, pro-poor party like NDC, which of the pro-poor policies in Ghana here they're implementing? You don't do anything. Even teachers and nurses allowances. You cannot manage your economy. You scrapped all of them. Don't do politics. You cannot.
You did not understand the philosophy of taking the allowances.
Ghanaians are gullible. You are always lying to Ghanaians.
You are lying to Ghanaians.
This country. You NDC.
You are the liars to Ghanaians.
You raised the issue of
pro-poor policy. Oh, hear me. I say NDC implement Chabako. Yes.
Oh.
You cannot do anything. Every day is about lies, propaganda, deception.
No.
Because MPP people are not speaking well. Because Ghanaians are doing politics based on tribe and other things. I am telling you, the situation which are offer proper alternative and stop the propaganda.
let me
We
bring
did.
it. You've thrown a question. You've thrown a question.
Simple teachers allowance.
You've thrown a question. Let him respond. He is asking for the NDC to name some of the social policies that you have.
Which one?
I mean, rolled out to help
Of national character.
Who
allow him,
start,
please.
who started,
Allow him.
Who started the health insurance scheme?
Somebody. God is watching you.
Who started the health
When we
insurance
were passing national, it didn't work out of parliament.
No.
How can it start something?
The health
it was
insurance
started by
us on a pilot basis.
It's a lie.
On a pilot basis.
Well, look, I'm a Christian. You're a Christian. Don't lie to God.
Okay.
This lies. You should stop.
I'm telling you that you are rather.
Boss, this exercise, the pilot scheme was started by Roman Catholics in Kransa and Techiman. It's not this. When we're passing the bill in parliament,
Professor,
you walk out.
I
How
know,
can you say you started?
I know.
Let's not do a disservice to our audience. Let's not do a disservice.
Let's have mercy
on a pilot basis.
Dr.
Every day you're using
health insurance was started on a pilot basis by the NDC.
Calm down. Let's have.
Country people should stop deceiving other people.
But we want to educate ourselves.
Everyday lies. It's about propaganda.
Who tells lies?
The only party that has had that.
Where is taking over the moderation of the show?
Where is the $1 billion? Where is the $1 million every constituency? Where is it?
Everything.
Where is the $1 million every constituency?
So you started national health insurance. Don't do that. You are my
friend. Let's go for a break.
You have forgiveness. This one is you are lying.
It means you don't follow the.
But you think the
development of the.
What is development? What is development? Every day you are lying.
We have Professor Abu-Texin is on the line.
I want to do politics with such.
Hold it there.
And then these guys think because
Dr. Amar, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you.
You talk.
Let's bring in Professor Abu-Texin.
Honest, God-fearing person who is not suffering from unconscious incompetence vote for NDC against NPP. How? Tell me, you yourself.
We are good.
Professor, Prof, you've heard the argument in the studio.
You cancel all of them. You cancel all of them.
Prof, you've heard the argument in the studio.
Jack, where are you projects now, Momoye? Every day are lying.
Dr. Amar, if you do that, let's. Doc, I beg you, let's take some of our panelists on Zoom, and let's not do a disservice to our audience. I beg, let's have a better conversation here. Prof, you've heard the argument from both sides. We are not doing the politics here. They will do the politics, but we just want to appreciate the issues better. He has raised the issue of needing the taxes to drive the economy. Honorable Podo is of the view that some of the taxes will burden the ordinary Ghanaian. From where you sit as an economist, what do you make of the tax measures in the budget yesterday?
Thank you. It's quite unfortunate that the discussion has gone into the political realm, and I think that the development challenges that face Ghana is the same irrespective of which government is in power. And I think that when we come into the media to discuss issues of primary importance, we need to take the politics out. I can understand there are political animals seated there, excuse me, in quotes, they are politicians. But I think that what we need to recognize is the fact that the challenge that Ghana has a country didn't start in the last 5 years. That needs to change. We have an economy that relies on domestic resource mobilization is always woefully inadequate relative to the expenditure that we need to expand even the productive capacity of this economy. So these challenges, when they come up, yes, they lead us into situations that we are very uncomfortable. The discussion should center on how do we get out of this? And that is where we should go on. Global challenges are the same. The alternatives that we have is the same, irrespective of which government is in power. As soon as COVID hit and we had challenges with domestic resource mobilization, and also we had to spend to contain the pandemic. I mean, what was the choice for government at that time? To government look on and not spent to contain the pandemic, then people die, or it was going to be COVID, and then afterwards find ways in which the over expenditure. And I think that the second alternative was the right choice that the government made. Now we are confronted, but it is because of COVID mainly. And so what would be the alternative for us?
Prof, we seem to be having
2022 onwards. The alternative was to find ways in which we are going to raise more revenue. And what was important for the minister to do this time around was to find out the ways in which
we seem to be having with the network.
Going to use advertising to rake in more revenue. And that is what has happened. Anybody who will tell you that the Minister of Finance
producer, if we can more or less engage him on the side to get the connection better, because we are not hearing all that he's saying, and we have 1 or 2 questions for him even before he takes leave of us. We'll try to raise Professor Ibo texting back to finish with that point that he was making. But Honorable, let me come back to you, even before I bring in Joseph Obin. In all honesty, don't you think the teacher and nursing trainees allowance has outlived its purpose when we have other students taking students' loans? In this time that we say COVID-19, revenue streams have dried up and we need revenue to drive the economy, to pay the debt, we are still handing out freebies to a section of students.
In all honesty, what you're saying, I have a different view. We call something social stratification. And social stratification defines different segments and levels of everyone in society. And we call something essential services. When it comes to education and health, they are very essential. And we have so much, a huge deficit when it comes to teacher-student ratio, nurse-patient ratio. And these are extremely key, very, very fundamental. And this country, look, the poverty levels, even sometimes, whether on the NDC or MPP, when they list the poverty level is this, I shock. Unemployment, I shock. Because people are really, really, really suffering to the extent that crime rate and other things. So a government said that, okay, this level, we need a lot of nurses and teachers. And these are areas that, let's be very honest with ourselves. Good students don't want to even be nurses and teachers.
That was then.
Oh,
not
boss.
Anymore.
Even today,
not anymore.
I'm coming. Today, anybody that has option between nursing, teacher, and I won't say anybody, but most people, and other probably maybe banking or accounting, whatever, will choose those things over nursing and teaching. The only thing is that maybe 1 or 2 of them said, oh, this one when you finish, you may get job ready.
If you say this was the purpose for which
I'm not saying
the allowance was introduced,
let me finish.
Back then,
I haven't said this is a purpose. Let me finish.
I'll respond to
But what the government want to do is that to encourage a lot of people to have interest at these essential services base to build a capacity, because all over the world, long-term economic growth and stability has 2 functions: productivity and labor force. Labor force, you talk about the skill component and the size. So we realize that when it comes to labor force in these areas, a lot of people don't want to go there. Those who want to go there, they don't have the financial capacity. So let me encourage them so that at that base, we get a lot of teachers and nurses. I think this is a very fantastic idea. It is very, very fantastic. And policies are made normally to help those less endowed in society. It doesn't mean that the policy for
from where you sit, you don't think when we invest the monies we hand out to the trainees in expanding the infrastructure to absorb more is better than giving them the money? Because
they're talking about long term. If you expand the infrastructure and the students who are supposed to go, the citizens, these kids, the youth who are supposed to enter into these areas, you finish and you don't have money. I am telling you that maybe if you tell you the truth, even some of them, that school is free, transportation,
what they eat a day. He knows. He's MP. I'm MP.
That cut across tertiary institutions.
But what I'm saying is, at the university level, if you realize they have a lot of opportunities at the nursing teacher training level, are they also giving, what is it?
Student loans?
Loans. They are not.
So why don't you make it a general policy for every student, irrespective of being in the teacher training school or nursing training school or university, to also patronize the loans?
Alternative policy. When you're talking about decision-making processes to attain a specific goal, we have alternatives. Paths getting there. Path A can be used today. We can review and use B. It doesn't mean this one is bad. But whichever way, Social Democrats are supposed to they don't even have to give loans. If they are to do their whatever, education should have been free all the time since coming time. Them, they cannot. Health, they cannot. School feeding, they cannot. Library and power, they cannot. So the point I'm making is that when it comes to the economic management, MPP is 1,000 times better than them. You can lie. He knows, so he's very intelligent. Probably even more than me. But for politics, he's trying to do that. When it comes to social intervention policies, because they are supposed to adopt in economics a contractional fiscal policies, where they take a lot of taxes and do free for almost everyone. Okay. That field today have failed. So they should stop doing politics. I don't want to do politics.
Even before you
but he's forcing me to do politics.
Even before you come in, let me bring in Edward. Edward, from where you sit as a financial journalist with all these years of experience, do you think we should still maintain the allowance for for teacher trainees and nursing trainees when we are talking about expenditure rationalization and the need to cut some of the expenditure so that we can have enough fiscal space to support the economy?
Well, I think that as a country, you need to look at your resource. Now, because if I cut my expenditure, and the people I'm going to support are going to suffer in the long run, what is the use of it? Because if you empower me as a student, educated person, I'm better placed to enhance productivity and to perhaps pay back, actually pay back whatever is there. So it's just like saying that, look here, I'm a father, my daughter is going to school, I'm going to deny myself of A, B, C, D for a while. I'm not taking Milo anymore. So I'm going to make sure I give her Milo, and then when she's okay through school, I will enjoy through her. So it's a policy, it's a choice. You need to look at both sides because debt is facing me. Now, are we the first country to go to this extent of 76.4% of debt to GDP ratio?
Now 77 yesterday in the budget.
Are we the first people to do that? Like Angela Merkel said, this is not a time for you to look at fiscal space and all those things because it is unusual season. COVID has hit us. That's how I think that even the IMF will be able to give us SDR of $1 billion because it's not in normal times. So when we are putting this in perspective, we need to look at it in that regard because if we are not...
Should it be maintained?
For now, I think so, because if you're going to take it off, then you're going to worsen the plight because if COVID has hit us for almost 1-2 years now running, and you're going to take off teacher allowance and necessary allowance...
And convert it to loans?
It's going to be serious.
Like other students are...
For now, I don't think so, because you see, even in the US, when the government is giving freebies in terms of printing, doing QE, quantitative easing, to give out money to the people, people are still on stipend in the US. Are being given stipend as by the government.
So your point is once COVID-19...
No, not necessarily, because you see, I'm on a view that my mom was a teacher, okay? So I support that teachers' training allowance for me as an individual because of what I benefit. Because if you look at where she was coming from, how she was able to make it, it tells me that teacher training is very important. Even at the moment that we even do that, you still see the gap of teacher to student ratio. So we have a long way to go to be able to bring that gap.
That's why my
question
if you take it away and invest in infrastructure, expand access, enrollment ratio goes up, you produce more teachers and nurses.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You see,
infrastructure, if they can't go, if they don't have money to go.
No, if you take out the allowance, it doesn't mean they don't have money to go. Because they still pay the admission fees and those stuff. Honorable, I'll give you the point.
Let me come in. You see, when students in nurses training colleges were being paid, there was quota that this nurses training college, you can only admit so many. Beyond that, no. So you see, our children have gone to school. They've done their pre-entry examinations and they qualify, but they apply. And the principal tells them that, look, we cannot take you because this is our quota. So the policy that was brought to withdraw the nurses training allowances is exactly what Sika has said, that we want to produce more nurses. It is not the allowance that is going to attract them. It is the facility, the availability of facility. I'm from Ho. When I first came to Parliament, many people who applied to the nurses training college in Ho for admission were turned away. I looked at their grades, and I saw that they qualified to be admitted there. So I walked to the principal. Principal, my people have applied, they have qualified, why is it that you cannot take them? He said, MP, we don't have classroom facilities. We have faculty, but we don't have space to put those students you are bringing to me in. So if you can help. That was how I started a two-story nurses training college classroom block, which is old now. Now, unfortunately, the year we commissioned the block and left, this government came and said it was going to reintroduce the nurses training allowances. And you know, immediately it came with quota. Because the moment you admit mass of people into the nurses training colleges and teacher training colleges, they have become workers. They are on controller and accountant general's payroll. So you have the criticism that the payroll is too large. So these people are learning. So let's manage to bring in as many as we can, because we have, you know, that was at the same time we introduced the CHIPS compounds in numbers. Let the people come to the nurses training college, fend for themselves, train, and we get them into those services. You see the point? So that was the rationale behind the withdrawal of the allowances. So it is not just frivolous. On the other hand, it was to encourage or to ensure that more people who were hanging around, who could have become thieves, who could have become nobodies in the towns, were taken into the schools. This is what happened. So you have to understand that.
Our guests on Zoom want to take leave of us, even before we wrap up, all of us. Let's take the final views of Professor Texin and Joseph Obin from Guta. Joseph, let me start with you. Very finally, what's your take on the E-levy? You've made some points on that. There is a sense that it's going to more or less lead to double taxation, and it will affect businesses. Is that a view you agree with?
No, I don't say. I wouldn't say that it will affect businesses. Not at all, because I am for any policy that will widen the tax net. In this regard, mobile phone is what everybody uses, and it has become the norm, new norm of transacting in businesses. What I'm saying is that once we recognize that we are the memo system have to be taxed, then we should also know that we use it for sales, because people buy our goods and then they pay in the memo. So when you are taxed with that 1.74, then it should be considered as your input for tax purposes when you are rendering your account. I hope you understand that. And that's what I'm saying, that the GRA should sit down with us to know how we can have a refund of sale. Because, but otherwise, if I have to go back to the benchmark policy, we have an unfinished business with government. The fact that if you are reversing the policy to the old, it means that you are reversing us to the old problem, because the benchmark did not come out of the blues. It came to solve a major problem. And so if you are reversing it, then we have to have a stakeholder engagement for you to tell us how you are going to mitigate that problem before you can reverse it.
Thank you so much. Joseph Obin is President, Ghana Union of Traders Association. Let's also pick the final thoughts of Professor Ebu Texin. Prof, very finally, what's your take on the targets that government has set for 2022, seeking to grow the economy 5.8%, reduce the fiscal deficit to somewhere 7.4%? What's your take? Are these realistic targets, looking at our revenue position and the fact that government is also seeking to expand the revenue base vis-a-vis the taxes that, or the tax that has been introduced and the cry of the business community we've heard since yesterday?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I think that the targets that we have for 2022 are achievable. There are a lot of initiatives in the budget that I think that will help us to recover. I also think that the Youth Start program for the youth is a step in the right direction. Yes, we got to raise revenue. We need a revenue to expand the productive base of our economy. We need a revenue to assure us that we are going to be able to fund the Ghana Cares of our program, which is at the center of our recovery efforts. And so it's important that we raise that revenue. The tax handles that have been mentioned by the minister are perfect tax handles, with the exception of two that I have problems with. The first one, like I said, has to do with the e-transaction levy. I don't have any problems if the e-transaction levy is going to be your online sales, where people go on like Jumia and other platforms to buy stuff, and they are paying a percentage of that as tax. That is fine. I have a problem with it if it's going to affect Momo transactions, because Ghana has gotten to a point where the Momo platform is now including a lot of other persons, especially the poor and informal in rural Ghana, who otherwise would not be included in banking or financial transactions. This is not a time to bring in any transaction cost that would likely deter them from doing those transactions.
Prof, if you can wrap up for me in 30 seconds.
Yes, so for instance, last year, mobile money transactions were 600 billion. If you tax 1.75%, that will give you 10.5 billion. If 0.25 pesos is going to go to road fund, that will give us 175 billion. Now, consider that if we have 1 million cars in Ghana, and everybody goes for its road, and we are each charged 300 cedis a year, that will give us 300 million, far higher than what the E-levy would give us for our road infrastructure. So I think that we need to rethink about that. We can impose a levy of 200 cedis or 300 cedis on each car that comes for renewal in 2022. And that will give us much more money, so that our focus rather on the e-transaction should go on to online sales transactions and not bank transfers, and which would be counterproductive to financial inclusion efforts and then a cashless society that we are looking out for. We shouldn't forget that the central bank is in the process of introducing the ECD for transactions. We need to take away that levy that would serve as a disincentive for people to engage on e-transactions, and that could have implications for the digitalization drive in terms of financial inclusion and a cashless society. So we should take a second look at it.
Professor Ibu, Associate Professor of Economics, Economics Department of the University of Ghana, has been helping us to understand the many mentions in the economy yesterday. Let me pick your final thoughts on the E-levy. There are concerns it's going to lead to double taxation. For example, if I buy something online, I pay for that service or for that product. If the receiver is going to also withdraw the money, he pays, and that will lead to... Isn't that the case? Because I've seen
I haven't sat down to read the actual processes and the calibration of it, because it's just stated in our budget, all of us. We just saw how they're going to roll the whole thing out by GRA. We are here to see. But in any case, a lot of tax components go through different processes along the value chain and the critical activity path. And one way or the other, realize that there will be some sort of intersection or rate tax. It happens all over the world. At the end of the day, I think the most important thing we need to consider is that what is the size or magnitude of obligations on our table today as a country, and how prepared are we in terms of financing, and how inevitable it is our day for us to do, and how are we going to do to save this country? It's very, very important. For tax, some are saying that, oh, financial inclusion, then even the normal business, if it hasn't, they're also doing businesses. If that is what we are talking about. But you see, one thing I like about this tax is that you don't even, it's like surgery. They give you anesthetics, by the time you realize you are healed. This is how I like about this tax. It's not that you're being cut for you to see. And in a way, it's one of the nice ways we implement taxes. If you're a very good person, by the time you realize, it's like a top tax or whatever. I think where we are today, it is me surprised. I would have introduced a lot of new taxes. I'm being honest. Yes. You see, yes, we are going through hardship. So this is the time that we need to take decisions to stop the hardship, build a more resilient economy, let the country be better for tomorrow. So we're having hardship. We don't have to come out of it. We should stay in and destroy the country.
Is it about focusing? We've seen the merger of the NIA card and our SNIT's identifications. Is it about supporting the Ghana Revenue Authority to be able to chase these monies so that the tax performance will inch up? Or introducing new taxes?
No, you're talking about what they say that the tax net.
Yes, I mean widening the tax net.
Boss, this statement, they were saying before you were born, we are still seeing it.
Is that to suggest that the merger is not going to yield any result?
NPP, the policy makers, ask us that they should be able to tell you that if we're able to utilize all the tax net in Ghana, how much are we getting against our obligation? You see, yes, it's a good statement, but we just say wishy-washy and move on. And it's not good for our country.
Am I getting the impression that you're saying the merger will not amount to anything?
No, I haven't said that. You are saying that thing. You are saying we are talking about tax net. Oh, you said tax net utilization. Then you are talking about something I haven't been touched on. And your question is very important. Everybody is talking about widening the tax net. But I'm saying that as a country, our problem is that when we say these things, as political policy, whatever, we don't do proper work to tell you, Ghanaians sitting here, that you don't want to do policy. Bruh, if we are able to utilize this, the unutilized person is maybe 50 meters. Let's take it like that. If we're able to exhaust the 50 meters, we get 2 billion. Looking at our obligation is 3 billion. So even our debt or borrowing can be reduced. This is what I am talking about we should do. It's not the wishy-washy raising issues without doing nothing. It's like for political statement and other people are bought into it. Why is NPP, NDC? Why are they not talking about the tax leakages? Why is it that the business community themselves, the players, they are not talking about tax leakages? Because I can tell you whether in the NDC...
Isn't that a duty of government to ensure
exactly
that leakages are plugged?
Thank you. Well, that's why I brought my own government into it. I want to speak as somebody who is trying to be very honest with you, but you're not getting the picture. That area, have you heard the business community talking about that? Because most of them, and the invoice, what they bring to Ghana. NDC, when they are in power, some of their people enjoy that. NPP, when they are in power, some of the people, and they collude. Have you also talked about the leakage, how much? Big companies, mostly those, I mean, I don't want to because I have to be ethical, but those who are doing big importation and transportation of, I mean, petroleum products and this, lifting this and bringing all sorts of warehouses, go and ask what they do to us. Let's be honest with ourselves. Even if we utilize all the tax net in Ghana, the obligation we have to perform as a country will not be enough.
Okay.
And we need to build this country well. Our revenue to GDP said it's about 14. It's extremely very low. 14. Effective tax rate, monies transfers from government to various households along the stratification, rich, poor, moderate. The money is going to them. And the taxes we take against our total revenue is negative. It means this country is not very strong economically. So we need to do these things and be honest with Ghanaians, explain issues well. And the last thing is, when we take the taxes, we should avoid wastages, corruption, NPP and DC. We all cannot look into Ghanaians and say that there's no corruption. Even the media, can we say there's no corruption? Police, can we say there's no corruption? Chiefs, I'm not saying everybody, or all chiefs, or all NDC, or MPP. These are serious issues that we should take away politics.
For this reason, the MPP was voted into office, and
that's why we are working on this process.
It's like you are joining the rest of Ghanaians to complain about
what
the
I'm saying is, unless you want to be dishonest with Ghanaians or to Ghanaians, even in UK, America, even Jesus Christ, the 12 somebody was corrupt. You put in place systems to reduce or mitigate some of these impact and check them. You cannot. You are dealing with human beings. Even GTV here. There's somebody, if you leave your phone here, you take. Somebody will never take. You come to my church, somebody will take, somebody will not take. That's how a system is. We were voted into power. We think we are doing our best. It's not enough. Even the very people who are doing their best. You find somebody who is corrupt and wasting state resources. So what we are saying is that let's take away NDC MPP issue. Pick this serious issue. For once, stakeholders come on board. How best can we mitigate this and move Ghana forward?
I'll take that as your last submission.
If you come and do politics, then we tell you that you don't have to
You've heard a lot from him defending the states of the economy and what they are doing as a government to address the challenges facing the economy. What's your final take on all that he has said?
I can say for sure that this is the worst economic situation we have found ourselves in since 1992. This is the very worst. I don't know whether the next government will find repairing the situation easy. It will be very, very difficult. But we have to do it as a nation by taking these people out. What they are doing is pure deception, and then the corruption is paramount among them. That's why I said we have to reduce the cost of government. What the government is doing, they are spending money recklessly, and they think that they can pass on this recklessness onto the citizenry by imposing more and more taxes. You see, if we continue like this, as he said, NPP, NDC, we are here now managing the country. If we don't take time, we may not have the opportunity to manage the country as NPP, NDC again. That is why we have brought us to this crisis point. Our debt has run through the roof. All our money which we will earn is going to pay interest. And you know, the interest is even going to some of their business partners. They scheme and come and take the bond which we are issuing. Who are the people organizing it? The brokerage firms belong to them. So there is so much pain in us because of their activities. And now you come and say that you are imposing taxes. Somebody asks, I am paying tax to government, and I'm using my either G-Money or Momo. And you are telling me that after paying the telco, I must pay you 1.75 on the tax that I'm paying you. How reasonable is that? So and whatever you are getting,
this situation which you find, what NDC have done to salvage Ghana.
Whatever you have done now is to spoil us, to spoil the entire country.
What will have been the alternative?
No, you see, that is what I said earlier, that the digitalization thing is fine. Let's use it to implement the existing taxes, not to introduce e-money, E-levy. You get the point. We are trying to track people in their homes. That is why we have registered everybody.
Okay.
Yes, we have house numbers now computerized. So why don't we use that to get the taxes? Okay. Instead of introducing this draconian tax that will make people lose. So the benchmark revenue, value, the discount which has been removed is going to affect the prices of all goods. Rice, sugar, soap, all those things that we import.
Thank you so much.
So the Ghanaians must brace themselves up for suffering. That is it.
We'll go for a break. We'll go for a break. When we return, we'll go to the regions and speak with our correspondents who are stationed across market centers to pick the view of the general public on the budget presented yesterday. Let's go for this break. We'll be right back. first thing with us is still our analysis of the 2022 budget, which was presented in Parliament yesterday by Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta. In the first session of the program, we had a representative from the minority and majority in Parliament. Of course, they were all people in the finance space. They have an idea of what the technicalities in the budget were, and they've been attempting to defend the argument. Of course, the MPP, which is in government, is defending the budget presented. The NDC is of the view that it's not going to help solve the challenges facing the economy. We also spoke with GUTA, Ghana Union of Trades Association, who also shared some insight on the benchmark values policy, and Professor Ibo Texin from the University of Ghana, an economist who has been helping us appreciate the target sets and what the economy has achieved in 2021. We'll now go to the regions and speak with our correspondents and understand how the regions are reacting to the budget since the presentation yesterday. And we've been joined by Samuel Ayama, our correspondent in the Upper East region. Samuel, thank you so much for joining us. Paint a picture of how the people in the region are reacting to the budget since yesterday. Samuel seem not to be hearing us. We will work on that to get him to tell us how the Upper East region has been reacting to the removal of the toll booth levy, the introduction of the E-levy.
In interacting with residents here in the Upper East region, most of them are saying that they were expecting a lot. They wanted to hear the finance minister talk about some monies that they have made available to construct most of the roads in the Upper East region, because in the Upper East region, one particular thing that is affecting residents in the region here has to do with the desirable road network. And then again, too, when you look at another aspect, too, has to do with the defects on the One Village, One Dam project, because most of the dams currently during the rains, they've all had their banks washed away by the torrential rains, and like they have expected that the finance minister have mentioned that they have made some monies available to fix the defects on the One Village, One Dam projects. And again, too, government also spoke about the 1D, 1F, that is the One Village, One Factory, but for the Upper East region, most of the abandoned or the defunct factories are not working. So they were expecting that government will have mentioned that they have made some monies available to fix those factories, but nothing of that sort was mentioned. So for now, I have one resident here who want to share with me about his take on the budget yesterday. So tell me, what is your take on the budget that was read yesterday?
Yes, we were expecting that something will be said about our roads. Seriously speaking, it's one thing going to the bush to go and farm, especially at that time. Going is not difficult when the lands are relatively dry. But when you harvest, at that time is the peak of the rainfall. Coming out of the farm to produce is so we're expecting that at least the government would have addressed that issue about how we'll be able to cut out of the farms. We all know that the Fumbisi Valley had been developed, but that alone is not enough, because accessibility had been a problem. Produce rice, and you cannot come out of the bush, the rice. Sometimes even sending inputs into the bush had been a problem, like fertilizer and seed. So if government had mentioned that some of the projects started last year were going to continue, especially at the Trading Valley, where roads were being constructed to link the farms would have been grateful. But that project in itself was not abruptly. When I don't know what happened, and then it just stopped abruptly, and nothing has been said about how it's going to go. So we expect that. I believe. I don't know whether it's a finality, and if something can be done again to address accessibility, it will be very wonderful.
Okay. So for now, apart from that brick sector, the government mentioned some levies, taxations, and what. What's your take on that?
You see, I personally have a little knowledge about economics, and it's true that taxation can be made to increase revenue for government to undertake projects. But it's true also that taxation would limit consumption, to limit production, to limit so many other things. But those other areas too are areas that are potentially going to help in the productive chain. So taxation would sort of squeeze most of people, and especially when it comes to taxing mobile money and sort of remittances. You see, we're living in an area where people who are dependent on remittances. You notice that when the COVID struck, most remittances that failed to hit expectations created problems. Okay. So if the taxation aspect is relaxed, the inverse is that the non-taxing will also create an avenue for production.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. This morning I had interaction with some workers at the Palugu toll booth there, and they are not really happy with what has happened, because according to them, they depend on whatever they do there for their livelihood. And again, when you get there, you see onion sellers, and a lot of people are there, and they are into petty trading. But all of them, they said they have no option than to move away from that area, because if they are there, the cars will not come and then stop for them to transact their business. So they have no option than to move away from that area. And again, to one particular aspect that residents are really worried is the government inability to mention that there will be the funds will be made available for contractors working on the various roads to move back to site, because as we speak, almost all the contractors are not on site. I'm currently in Fumbisi, but when I was coming, I realized that at Riaga, the contractor working on the Fumbisi Riaga road, he is on site. But when you move to Naga Navrongo, and then you move to Naga Bogatanga, that Shirigo stretch, the contractor is not on site, and residents are really not happy about that. So they were expecting the government would have mentioned that they've made some funds available for the contractors to move back to site, because when you talk to the contractors, what they tell you is that government has not been able to honor their certificates. They've issued certificates, but their certificates have not been honored. So we will keep on talking and interacting with the residents in the region, and then get their more views about what or their take on the budget that was read yesterday. From the Upper East Region, Samuel Ayama.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Samuel Ayama there from the Upper East Region, helping us to understand the sense of feeling in the region since the presentation of the 2022 budget by the finance minister. Of course, he said some residents, operating, running their business around toll booths are not happy with the removal of that policy. But in Accra and other parts of the regions also, we've heard a lot of excitement amongst residents who, more or less those who drive, who are on the roads every day. They are happy that there is going to be smooth flow of traffic now that the policy has been removed. Edward, who do we have on the line again?
That's Sola.
Yes, Sola from the Upper West Region. Sola, if you can hear me, give me a sense of feeling among residents in the Upper West Region since the announcement of the 2022 budget. Sola seem not to be hearing us, but we are working to raise him back on the line to tell us what residents have been saying. Of course, they've had a bit of challenges prior to the budget. The floods in the region, the flash floods, led to portions of their roads being washed away, and that affected farming activities in the region. So they may be expecting to hear something in yes.
They are not able to get to sound. That's what I said. I was asking you to the meeting. So that GTV News came to the Lorry station here to find out the expectations of people, particularly those in the transport industry. And what some of us told us was that they were expecting to hear a decrease in fuel prices, as well as decrease in other taxes that constitute some of the things they use in their operations. And after the budget, we spoke to quite a number of people on the outcome, and some of them have been telling us that they are not so much in tune with because they were expecting to hear explicitly what the government is doing regarding the reduction of taxes. We spoke to some business people, and they told us that when they go outside to buy goods to come and sell, the taxes on their products are so high that they virtually make any profit, and that they are a bit disappointed in how the budget has gone. But one key stakeholder that has been very vociferous in the outcome of this budget is the GP active. We are here at the regional office of the Ghana Highway Road Transport Union to interact with members of the association. We want to find out from them exactly what they make of the budget that was read yesterday by the Minister of Finance. We have the regional industrial meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are now with GTV. What do you make of the budget that was read yesterday by the Minister of Finance as a transport union? The budget that was read yesterday was not favorable to us at all. It was just a bogus budget on our part, because we requested for the return of some of the nonsense levy that they put on the poor. But if we look at the people, they have rather increased it instead of abolishing it. And then they tend to close our eyes by saying that they have track of the road to which nothing to write home about. Are you not happy with the abolition of the road toll? We are not happy, because even the road toll was better than what they are trying to do. They are sending the road toll collecting to Memo. Put ordinary Ghanaian, the village, like my grandmother at the village. If I tell him something like 150 Ghana, they're going to tax it. A poor old lady at the village would need some little money to buy cocoa, and yet you would. So I would have prepared the road to
that these people voting. So you say you are expecting the government to reduce some taxes. What are some of the taxes that specifically you are referring to? See that it did. The national taxes that they stabilization taxes, environment taxes, and so many things. They are here plenty. So now that your expectations have not been met, what does the GPRTU intend doing? We will need to obstruct it. Our leadership will be meeting in Accra. They will take a decision on the way forward. Luckily, we will have a state government. If they will not listen to us, and what will be the implication? The implication is to put pressure on the state to do the right thing. And within that also deny your members your livelihood, because you know yes, if you sacrifice today to build your future, it's better. We will sacrifice those days that we take down to scale a better future for ourselves.
So you'll be listening to the Senior Industrial Relations Officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union in the Upper West region. He's saying that GPRTU in the Upper West here, and for that matter, the national is not happy with the outcome of the budget. They were expecting the government to reduce some taxes according to the bill, which will feed their operations. But this has not been materialized. And he's hinting that they will be meeting very soon, and the possible outcome of the meeting will be a strike. Indeed, some other stakeholders, BBC News has spoken to, have expressed concern about the abolition of the voting. They are of the view that quite a number of heavy duty taxes come from the neighboring country, Burkina Faso, to the national capital, to the goods, and their laws are so heavy, in fact, according to them, heavier than that of the Ghanaian vehicles, and that is carried down, reducing the lifespan of our roads. So if government says there will be no more road tolls, that means the vehicles that ride these roads are going to do so free of charge, and the burden will be on Ghanaians. And so they are saying that government should take a second look at the abolition of tolls, the road tolls, and substitute it with the electronic transaction bill, which is a killer one. For GBC News, Sal Abdullah. Wow.
Sal Abdullah there from the Upper West region, specifically sharing with us concerns of the GPRTU members who are not happy with the introduction of the E-levy, and they have raised a number of concerns, as he said in that report. We'll try and establish connection with some other correspondents across the regions, but let me bring in Edward for a bit of discussion about the some of the issues that were dominant in the budget yesterday. For example, if you look at the issue of energy, prior to the budget, there were calls on the minister to remove some taxes on the price build-up. We didn't see that happen yesterday. How feasible were those calls from where you sit in terms of the transport operators seeking some relief in their business?
Well, I would say that the calls are genuine, but the question is, are we in a position to be able to take away this cost? Taxes, because we need revenue. As we say that our deficit now is in a staggering position. That needs to be taken care of, and the way out there is to make sure you get the needed revenue and to absorb or to retire those debts. So for now, We know even the MPA announced the government has agreed for 14 pesos to be removed for the stabilization levy. But that one is yet to be worked on by Parliament. It was supposed to start in this November. Nothing has been heard yet. So for now, if we look at the dire situation that we're in as a country, we need to really tread cautiously. Yes, people are really crunching because of the financial difficulty they're facing. But that's what budget is all about. Budget, you take it from here and you put it there. Because then again, you do that to also minimize the hardship on the people. So for now, I think that, yes, it's a genuine call. But if we take it away, how are we going to get that revenue to pay those debts that we've incurred? Because we need to retire some of the debt we have accumulated. And these debts are not just maybe 2017, 2016 debts. There are debts that we borrowed long time ago, which become mature now. So you need to make sure you quickly take it off. Because if we don't take it off, we will be in a position that we will not be able to go to the international capital market to borrow. When we get to that level, it means that our bonds become junk. Okay.
We'll speak about our chances on the bonds, especially when we've heard from Fitch Ratings talking about ratings and the debt risk that we're facing as an economy. Let's go to the Ashanti region where Nicholas also joins with reactions from the region's residents. Have been saying a lot since the Minister presented the budget yesterday. Nicholas, if you can hear me, what have you gathered from the region?
Welcome to the Ashanti Regional Capital of Kumasi. I am located right within the now famous Swami Runabout here at Swami, a newly created municipality out of the former, the previous Kumasi metropolis. If you were following keenly the presentation of the 2022 budget by the Minister for Finance, Mr. Kenoforiata, yesterday, you could realize and you observe that he made a certain pronouncement, and that is specific to the Ashanti region, and that is got to do with the planned construction of 5 interchanges in Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital. And one of the identified locations for these new interchanges to be constructed is the Swami Runabout here, where I have now located myself, and we are seeing pictures from this particular runabout. And in fact, it is the biggest of runabout within the Ashanti region. One of the biggest, not one of them. And so, and this runabout, if you had come to us a while ago, you would have seen a gridlock here, such that normally it takes a hell of a time for police officials of the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police to deal with the situation. And that was no different from what was happening a while ago. If you can see from the shot, these are heavy-duty trucks that move from the port of Tema and sometimes from Accra, and that is the route they take. If you can follow keenly the articulated track, and that is going through Swami, through Macro, and the destination is somewhere in the Bunu East or in the northern part of Ghana, either in the northern region, Savannah region, Upper East or Upper West. That is the route they take. When you come to this particular direction where we have some vehicles in traffic, stuck in traffic, that is the route that leads to Asante Mampong, Atebubu, Kwame Danso, and all those areas that lead to the river Volta. Then also, from here, you can also see from your shot, that is where you have the traffic leading to the Kejetia or the city market, Kejetia terminal, that has just been constructed. Then, of course, you come here, you also see the traffic that leads to the Sofo line interchange. But as this facility is going to be transformed into a modern interchange, as you have been made aware by the government, it's going to be either a 3-tier or a 4-tier interchange, and that's going to transform entirely this landscape. Now I would want to engage a police officer to tell us how this place will look like when the interchange is actually constructed. Madam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can you share with us your name and your rank?
Thank you. My name is Police Sergeant Benedict Sapong.
I've seen you stand in the scorching sun, directing traffic. You have a hell of a time. I mean, what is the scope of work when you come here on a daily basis?
My dear, it's very tedious. When we come to duty, I came around 5:30 in the morning. I've been on my seat since morning. We've been directing traffic all over. From the road leading from Metro to Swami Runabout, from Abrapo Junction to Runabout, from KJTR to Swami Runabout, from Crossroom to Swami Runabout, from Tafu to Swami Runabout. The traffic is very tense, and our regional commander too is aware. He even came and visited us. It's not easy. We are suffering here.
In fact, I witnessed it myself just a while ago. I was monitoring closely what was happening. And even if you see from the shot, you are seeing a gridlock of vehicles that are trying to negotiate the runabout. Indeed, it's a bigger. So when government says it's going to construct some facilities, runner interchanges, this is one of them. What do you think will change if the interchange is constructed?
Thank you, sir. When the interchange is being constructed, it will help Swami Police Service, that's the Swami MTT department. It will ease the traffic over here for us.
Okay. Apart from that, normally what happens here?
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's our special budget analysis 2022. We're trying to have an understanding of how the regions are reacting to the 2022 budget. You heard from Nicholas from the Ashanti region, where he has been telling us one of the projects that will help ease traffic in Kumasi around the Swami Runabout. Of course, one of the jammed places in the region. For over 5 years now, we've been hearing a lot of times about the construction of the more or less an interchange to help ease traffic there. And yesterday we heard that the 5 interchanges in Kumasi, this will be part of it. Edward, this is really going to help movement in the Ashanti region, because Swami Runabout area there is more or less leading to a lot of regions. If you want to go to a lot of regions, the north, you use that, a lot of trucks.
Bono East.
Yes, Burkina Faso and Niger, those heavy trucks often use that stretch, and is going to help ease traffic. And of course, the state of that place also, a lot of accidents many times.
Yes, in terms of infrastructure, we need more than even what we're talking about, in the sense that it does not only open up the area, but it enhances productivity, because the number of hours, man-hours spent in traffic cost us as a nation. And then this day that we're talking about climate change, you realize that we burn a lot of fossil fuel. The carbon emission alone also has negative impact, not only on our health, but on the environment as a whole, and even in terms of the weather patterns, because climate change causes erratic weather patterns. So if this is going to be done, we pray that it will be done as soon as possible, so that this challenge being faced by commuters and even the motoring community, it's reduced to the barest minimum.
Okay, let's go to Tema, where Michael Duwanu has also been gauging the feeling and thought of people about the budget since yesterday. Michael joins us. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. What have you been gathering from Tema? Of course, the leading business area in the country with the port and stuff. How are they reacting to what the minister presented yesterday?
Their reaction is towards the budget, especially with the removal of the toll on our motorway. And let me tell you that persons with disability, we will not be surprised if they hit the road very soon in demonstration against what has just happened. When I spoke with them this morning, they were really not happy with the situation. Some of them told me that they are owing them some arrears and some allowances, and so they are really not happy because they were not really much engaged. They were thinking that the whole issue, the whole removal of the toll would happen in 2021, but it has happened immediate, and they are in utter shock. But this afternoon, I'm located here at the Tema Community 1, and I want to interact with taxi drivers. Yesterday when I spoke with them, they were interested in removal of taxes from the fuel, but that has not happened. And so we want to find out from them whether they are really happy with the budget that was read and the removal of taxes on the good afternoon to you and welcome to GBC News. Yeah, yesterday when I spoke with you, your major concern has to do with removal of taxes from the fuel. It's not been done, and we are still, the budget has already been read. Well, what are your reactions? What are your expectations?
You see, we are really disappointed because we were expecting, because previously our leaders, when we planned to go to demonstration, and the finance minister and energy minister and transport minister went and met our leaders and they talk about it, promising them that they will reduce some of the taxes from the fuel. So we should wait up to Wednesday. And the budget was read and we didn't see anything. So after me, we will hit the road because you can't promise us. Then later, then we didn't hear anything, and they even increase roadworthy 15% on the roadworthy. Fine,
but tolls have been removed.
Yes, they removed the toll. But could you believe that somebody who work in Tema the whole year will not even cross the motorway? You understand? So it looks like please, we are marking time. As for commercial drivers, we are really marking time because you work and use all your money to go and buy food and use bare hand go. The next day you have to come. It's very serious. So I don't even know what to say.
They don't even know what to say. Really not happy out there. What do you have to say? Then I will come.
Tax no mo de to so no nanka yesterday drivers yesterday ni say anka onyi petrol no so mai because petrol no dey fidida dan ye brew petrol no ye adwuma ye discan na to fuel ye nya hwe nti yesterday ni say omra fam tanka me nkopa de anka to yin because me ko agra in and out one cedi na metua because one cedi no.
I do it talk at you. I say, I do it talk at you. Full and shadow. I know also one more. I say, so I will be a good night, franchise. Go your go appreciation. What I go for some movie gas in. Not by you ever from. I say, number 4, I didn't put a phone for Casa. Not tell you one, I will be very much. I don't ever be a man. Okay.
Thank you so much for staying with us. That was my colleague from Tema, Michael Duonu, who has been engaging some businessmen and women from that part of the country to understand their more or less take on the budget which was presented yesterday. Of course, Edward, there were a lot of expectations for some taxes to be removed, and if you more or less look at what the respondents in there have been saying, it's all kind of center around the taxes. They want some taxes removed, and prior to the budget presentation, this was dominant in the wish of many Ghanaians, but that has not been granted because government also is of the view that the revenues, more or less revenues needed to also drive the economy and create the needed jobs that we are all seeking for. There have been a lot of calls for government to rationalize expenditure, to more or less have some fiscal space. Instead, government chose to even expend more.
Well, talking about the demand or the requests of these drivers, as usual, because they are the major ingredient or inputs they use in their work is fuel. And if you look at what is happening on the world market, with OPEC Plus not willing to even pump more, what is happening is that the price of fuel, which is now around $82 per barrel, is likely to go up close to the end of the year, because we're also almost in winter, and over the demand for fuel commodity or product is going to go up. And with Russia and Ukraine challenges that we're having, and with Belarus as well, it's going to cause the price of fuel to go up likely. So in terms of reducing fuel prices, I think we need to brace up for more challenges ahead of time, because it's not going to go down now anytime too soon. And we can also say that we're going to subsidize fuel at the moment because the fiscal space is not there. So we need breathing space, and the debts that are getting mature, you need to service them. So for now, that is the bitter pill that we have to swallow, and there's nothing that can be done from where I sit and little I know that can be done to take away these taxes from the fuel component that is the export price.
Thank you so much, Edward. This has been our special budget analysis of the 2022 presentation by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We've looked at the targets as to whether government could achieve the target set for 2022. We've tried to look at the target for 2021, what we set and what we have achieved so far. The conversation will still go on in our subsequent programs and news bulletins, because it's just a day after the budget and the analysis is ongoing. People are breaking it down to the understanding of the ordinary Ghanaian. The conversation also in Parliament will begin soon, and we will see the position of the minority on whether they will support to approve this appropriation, or they have changes that they will demand to be made in the document before it is passed. My name is Sani Abdurrahman. I've been doing this with my colleague Edward Nyako and the rest of the team. Until then, have a nice day.